Okay, so it's 7:30. I'd like to welcome everyone. This is Maria Drueco, and welcome to this webinar. We have a global audience right now. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Again, thanks for joining us. And we believe that we're streaming live in the Consultation Facebook group right now. Just a couple of housekeeping to start this webinar. I have muted you all, but if you can try to stay muted until we ask you to unmute your mic. Later on, in the middle of the presentation, there will be an opportunity for a short group discussion. Use the chat box anytime to submit your questions, because we will be collecting questions and then we'll have an opportunity to answer them at the end of the presentation. And you will be seeing some worksheets as well in the during the middle of the presentation. If you are interested to get a copy of the worksheets that we will be showing to you, please let us know in the chat box as well. Drop your email addresses there so we know where to send those worksheets right after the webinar. To start with, my name is Maria Drueco, and I am the managing partner, and I'm a trainer facilitator. I'm based here in Canada. My focus is human relations. I'm an HR professional, but I do have background in sales and business development prior to doing this type of work that we do. I do a lot of training as well. So I have here with me as a co-presenter, the President and CEO of Consultation Global, and I will be passing on the mic to her to introduce herself, as well as give you some information about what Consultation Global is, and to proceed with the presentation. So Tinette, I will just unmute you. Okay, so Tinette, go ahead. You are unmuted.
Thank you very much, Maria, for the introduction. Good morning to all our listeners and participants from the United States and Canada. And good afternoon to everybody in the UK and Europe. And good evening to those who are in the Philippines and the rest of Asia. Thank you so much for joining us tonight in this webinar called Metamorphosis, Anticipating Your Breakthrough After the Breakdown. And to start with, I'd like to, assume that a lot of you are business leaders, entrepreneurs, maybe some of you are self-employed or employed, and your parents. And we do understand the situation of panic, frustration that you're probably experiencing in this very difficult time. And with the rise of a lot of valuable content through webinars, videos, and articles made not only by thought leaders, but almost everyone who has access to various platforms, we kind of feel overwhelmed and insecure sometimes, probably even unsure of what to do next with our lives and our businesses, or even worse, probably some of us even feel stuck. And this is exactly the reason why Maria and I have put together this webinar, is to make sure that you feel that you're not alone, that somebody actually understands you, and that we are one with you in this. So to start with, I'd like to start with the objectives of this webinar. The first one is to evaluate the relevance of metamorphosis in breaking through the current crisis. Second would be to build the necessary mental muscles in preparation for a major transformation and breakthrough. And the third one would be to create a solid action plan to immerse oneself into the new normal. So given all these objectives, I'd like to start off by sharing Richard Bach's quote, wherein he says, "What the caterpillar calls the end of the world, the master calls a butterfly." Now, this is powerful for me because it really marks the start of the shift of our mindset when it comes to this pandemic. A lot of us are probably going through some negativity, we're seeing such a bleak future in here. So with that, I'm going to show you the image of metamorphosis, which is the life cycle stages of a butterfly. Most of us are already familiar with this, but it starts off as an egg, becomes a caterpillar, then they go through the chrysalis, and then they emerge as an adult, and of course they turn into a beautiful butterfly as an adult butterfly, where it starts to become free. And this is how we would like to compare our cycle during this pandemic. So I'm going to focus just on 3 of these stages. And I'd like to start off with the caterpillar. So as a caterpillar, we were probably very comfortable where we were before this whole crisis came about. We were probably employed. We were doing so well in our businesses. We were getting a lot of sales. We were making good money. As parents, we're probably getting ready to send our kids to university. Probably some of us were already getting ready for a big trip in the next few weeks or next few months. Everything was perfect. Everything was predictable. We felt like we were totally in control. But what we were realizing at that point was that we were actually just crawling through life. And sometimes it's the comfort zone that actually prevents us from growing or from learning. And so then at the second stage, the pandemic happens. And this is where, at the second stage, we now are going through a deep experience of crisis, lockdown, quarantine, and probably some of us, when I check on my Facebook posts from friends, I see people talking about binging on Netflix or sleeping all day with no routine, or probably fighting with their spouses, or probably fighting with their kids, or going through a tough time figuring out what to do with work or with their businesses. But see, the most important thing that we need to remember at this point in time is that there is so much time in our hands right now. It gets overwhelming. And sometimes when you're given something in a massive amount, we tend to get overwhelmed. What am I going to do with this? I'm not used to this. I'm usually running out of time or running out of money. And this is the comfort zone that we were in. And now all of a sudden, you've got lots of time. And so then, you hear of people tidying up their garage or revamping the whole structure of their organizations and so on and so forth. So this is actually the most critical period of our business life, because whilst you're inside that cocoon as a pupa, what we don't know is that we have the whole new capacity to transform into a beautiful butterfly, wherein here we go through growth, we go through a lot of freedom. And this is exactly what we want to encourage you to think about, that after this pandemic, you can easily anticipate a breakthrough, a massive change in how you're doing things. Probably if your business was highly engaged face-to-face with clients or face-to-face with suppliers or employees, maybe there's another way to innovate. And this is the breakthrough is actually something where you can create something, you can innovate, you can navigate, and then you can activate. And this is where I want to bring in this portion of building your 3 mental muscles. And I'm going to try to my best to keep this as simple and as practical and applicable as possible. I don't want to sound like a neuroscientist here or anything like that, but I'd like to just focus on being practical about it. What are the 3 mental muscles that I'd like to propose that we work on during the time of quarantine or lockdown? So the first one would be the letting go muscle. I know that I've simplified that to the highest level. Letting go muscle, meaning let us not live in regret or live in guilt or live in, I miss my old life. I wish I had my full-time job, or I wish I had my old way of doing business. I wish I had that same client. I wish I had the same products, etc., etc. Probably a lot of those things have changed in the course of 4 weeks. But again, this is a muscle, a mental muscle. When I say mental muscle, it has something to do with the mindset. It has something to do with the way you work your brain in terms of looking at things and creating that attitude towards something. So let go of that. Just learn how to declutter your mind of all the regrets, the fears, and the blame. Okay, so sometimes we have the tendency to look at our social media and blame it on the government or blame it on certain countries or business leaders or whatever. So just let go of that. And I'm not going to dwell into that too much now because Maria is going to talk about mindset later on. But letting go muscle is the first one. Learn to let go, learn to give up. And physically, you can also do the same. Let go of things that you don't need at home. Let go of people who you do not need for your growth. Second mental muscle that I would like to propose is the gratitude muscle. Really try to look into your life right now. Do a little bit of an introspection. What things or which people in your life right now should take care of? Who are important right now? It's your family. It's probably your core team in your business. It's probably that one client who's actually supporting you regardless of the pandemic. The gratitude muscle is just a way of being grateful for everything that you have at the moment. And when we develop that muscle, we have the ability to look at the positive and attract the positive into our lives. And of course, the third mental muscle that I propose that we start building would be what we call the focus muscle. So the focus muscle, you see, I personally have a very difficult time focusing on certain things because I love to multitask. But what I found during these last 4 weeks is that it's absolutely difficult not to focus on something because you don't get anything done. So if you were to make some preparations for your major breakthrough, you got to focus on the big. I would recommend just 3 major things that will make a massive impact on your life and on your business. So whether it's your health, whether it's your relationship with your family or your friends, whether it's your business, what are the 3 things that you need to focus on? Do you need to meditate more? Do you need to send that massive number of emails to your clients? Do you need to coach one employee in your team? Whatever it is, you need to write them down and just focus on those key important things that you need to work on that will create the biggest impact on the outcome that you want. Okay, so those are the 3 mental muscles that I recommend you capitalize on and work on. And with those 3 mental muscles, this is exactly where your breakthrough is going to start. This is where you can, if you see the surfer on the right side, I mean, before she probably was able to do that, or is it a he? I think it's a he or a she, whatever. Before she was able to do that, she has probably worked out a lot, practiced a lot, did a lot of focus, did a lot of preparation, not just physically but mentally as well. And this is also exactly why scientists or astronauts are able to go into outer space, is because they do a lot of preparation for it. Now, my question to you is, what about you? What have you been doing the past 4 weeks during the lockdown? Have you been focused on blaming, on feeling guilty, or just binging or sleeping, or this thing about being passive aggressive about things? Or have you already started to reach out to people who you think would probably make a big impact on your life? Have you tried to accept yourself as a humble human being, that you're open to learning and to starting out fresh? And sometimes you just really have to let go of everything first, start on a clean slate, and anticipate your breakthrough. So with that, I'm going to turn you over to Maria so that she can get into the nitty-gritty techniques and tips that we have prepared for you so that you can actually anticipate and prepare for your breakthrough even better. So thank you very much, Maria.
Okay, so thank you, Tinette. Sorry, I think I accidentally muted you prior to me being unmuted. But anyway, so I'd like to continue on with our presentation, and just give me 1 second here. Okay, so breakthrough. If you look at the definition of breakthrough in, if you Google it, there are a number of definitions that we can actually look at. But I have put here on the screen 4 definitions I think is quite relevant to our topic today, because I believe that breakthrough, it's a cycle of enlightenment. So since it's a cycle, it's about being and doing. So we are at the point in our lives wherein we're asking ourselves how we want to be different, how we want to do inspired actions that will create further transformation in our life, something new in our life. It's that point in life we're in. We're thinking of pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone. And, out of these four definitions, I just want to give credit to the person who quoted the fourth definition, the one on your lower right quadrant. I believe Chaba Thought is actually here in our webinar. So he is just wanted to give credit to him because I use his quote on the definition of a breakthrough, because really for us, we believe that breaking through is getting out of our comfort zone, doing something that we have not done before, and putting ourselves in the more potential zone to be able to create that breakthrough. So we all know who Zig Ziglar is, I hope. And Zig Ziglar, he mentioned that, sometimes it takes an overwhelming breakdown to attain an undeniable breakthrough. So it's all about perception. It's all about mindset. So Tinette mentioned something about, strengthening our mental muscles. And if we do strengthen our mental muscles, it actually elevates our mindset. So right now, in our current situation, we are in a breakdown right now. So would you consider yourselves that you're having a crushing year? You're going to end this year as in a defeat, or you still have time? You should be considering yourself as, this is an opportunity for me to break through, do something out of the ordinary that I have not been doing before. So think about, what could this crisis do for you? Do you see this as a problem or as an opportunity? If you're the type of person who have been doing the same thing that you've done before, or you are in a wait and see attitude, I believe that this is a very slow moving strategy. It can actually lead you to being obsolete in terms of your skills and your competencies. So, are you the type of person who's actually not listening to that inner voice that is actually telling you to step out of your comfort zone? So think about what you can do now to immerse yourself in a more significant way in your personal life, in your work, in your business, and see what other opportunities will open up for you. I just want to share this survey. This is a survey done by the Business Development of Canada. They have surveyed around 1,000 small to medium business owners, and they do ask them, so how are you feeling right now with the COVID-19 situation? And I believe, with these numbers, even though this is a Canada number, if you ask people worldwide, this is the same number that we will be seeing of how people feel right now. I just want to focus our attention to this lower right quadrant here. It says here that most of the entrepreneurs are actually very much worried about the Canadian economy and the worldwide economy over their own businesses. And this is fair. This is just maybe a normal way of thinking, because this bigger world actually affects how we live our lives. And so what I did was, to put this into perspective, I did a local survey. So when we received the survey, I sent out another survey to local businesses here in my city in Edmonton. I asked them, have you thought of what your personal life, your career, or your business would look like once this pandemic is over? So I just wanted to get a sense of how actually people is kind of preparing or feeling right now, and how are they dealing with this type of situation. And true enough, I sent out the survey, and after 5 days, I received 28 responses. Out of the 28, only 5 people mentioned that they do have a solid action plan on how they are dealing with the crisis. So that number, even though it's a small number, it just, gives me a little bit more perspective that more people are actually right now, they're not prepared to think of a better way on how to deal with this, because they're more focused on the external environment, something that they cannot control. What I'd like to point out here, though, is that we ourselves have the power to control, within our sphere of influence. We have the power to control our way of thinking, and we have the ability to do small incremental changes that will actually make us a better person, a better leader, a better business owner, or a better professional in our whatever realm that we have right now in our lives. So it all starts with ourselves. So, Warren McDonald, I'm not sure if you know him, but he is one of a very famous speaker. He is an Australian hiker. I just want to share with you his story because right now I know most of us are, looking for stories to inspire us, stories to, give us motivation and how we can break through and how we can transform ourselves better in this current situation that we are in right now. You can look at stories of successful entrepreneurs, but what I have right now is the Warren McDonald story. He is an Australian hiker. He is now based here in Canada. He's now working as, he's a very famous speaker here in Canada and perhaps worldwide, but he's also a local tour guide right now in Alberta. He loves hiking and he loves going to remote places just to hike and climb those high mountains. So this was him in 1991. In 1997, he went to a remote island in Australia, and he attempted to hike one of the tallest peak there. Unfortunately, a freak accident fell on him. A 1-ton boulder actually fell on him while he was climbing. So this is Warren in 1997. He was trapped underneath that boulder for 2 days. So only 2 days that he was rescued, and he is expecting that one of his legs will be amputated, but the doctor told him, no, we will have to remove both your legs. So he was amputated above the knee. Both legs were amputated above the knee. So you can just imagine how a person who loves to hike, very adventurous, would feel at that point in time. But you know what? Warren didn't stop there. Just after 10 months, he attempted to climb and he was successful. He climbed Tasmania's Cradle Mountain. He was using a modified wheelchair and, just the seat of his pants. And he didn't stop there. In 2003, he was able to successfully climb Africa's tallest peak, Mount Kilimanjaro. He was the first double above knee amputee to reach the summit. Within that same year, in 2003, he also climbed one of America's tallest cliff face, El Capitan, and it took him over 4 days with 2,800 pull-ups to be able to reach the summit. My point is, this is one of the persons that I see who used his mindset to elevate his mind, to be able to reach his goal in spite of the limitations that he has right now. For me, I see this as self-leadership. He started with himself and he was able to achieve his goal, and now he's able to inspire others to do the same. So again, going back to the breakdown and breakthrough, right now, looking at, achieving breakthrough could seem insurmountable because of the situation that you are currently in. But we have to remember that we have the power to control ourselves. Breakthrough starts from within, just like the metamorphosis story that Tinette actually mentioned earlier. We have to use our environment, external factors, as a catalyst to really transform ourselves and lead ourselves first, and then possibilities will be opening up that we've never dreamed before. So mindset, it's a buzzword right now, and I believe that everyone should understand what mindset is right now to be able to move forward. Traditionally, mindset definition is it's an individual's way of thinking, but we know that it could differ from person to person. Our mindsets can dictate how we view ourselves in the world, but it can also create some self-limitations within our own belief system. So there's a professor, Carol Dweck, who actually made 2 definitions of mindset. So if one is having a fixed mindset, this person sees failures or setbacks as evidences that they're not good enough. They believe that, intelligence is innate. If something happens, you're stuck with it, and they actually internalize those criticisms about their lack of ability and talent, so they don't try anymore. But on the other hand, if you have a growth mindset, you feel that you can learn anything or acquire any ability if you just put enough effort to it. These are the types of people who is thinking that, any setbacks will not stop me from achieving my goal. And, one good news is that if you currently have a fixed mindset right now, you can change it to having a growth mindset. And that is the right mindset that we need to have at this current moment for us to be able to break through. Choosing growth over negativity. So seeing this breakdown as an opportunity to learn or develop new talents, this is really having a growth mindset. Okay, and we all know that being a leader, it doesn't require you to be in a position or have a title, because we are all leaders in our, um, in the realm that we are within our lives. So having a positive mindset, focusing on growth and learning, this is a key tool in creating that pathway for us to reach our goals and creating that breakthrough. Again, it's self-leadership. It's very important, and the change should start from within. Um, it should start within ourselves, and you will see the ripple effect afterwards. Okay, so how do we lead ourselves to breakthrough? So I'm getting now to uh, what we wanted you to have a takeaway of out of this webinar. So for me, I see that the way to break through, it requires one to really have a transformation and elevate your higher self. So having a growth mindset is very important. That's very critical in having that mentality of learning and development. But you also need to have a process in place to be able to help you practice and implement whatever goal that you have set for yourselves. And so we here in Consultation will be sharing with you the process that we usually teach our clients when we're doing goal setting workshops. We believe that having a process gives us the direction, because without any process, we easily get distracted. It will just cause some delays or sometimes prevent us from really moving forward. So that's why we believe that having a growth mindset plus the process and practicing the process are very important. Okay, so we call this process really the ACE process. So to be able to have a breakthrough, you should ace yourself. And these are the steps that we are sharing with you. So acknowledge, anticipate, act, commit, and evaluate. So we call this the ACE process. And just to dwell on it a little bit deeper, I just want to go through with you what each of these steps look like and how you can actually apply it in your life right now. So the first step is called the acknowledge step. So this is the point wherein we acknowledge the situation that we are in right now. We know that we are in an unprecedented time. We acknowledge the emotions that we're feeling right now, whatever fears, sadness that we are actually feeling. We have to acknowledge and accept that, because that's part of being self-aware. We have to acknowledge the strengths that we have right now. What are the skills and competencies and abilities, what knowledge we had, that actually made us accomplish a lot of stuff prior to the COVID or prior to this breakdown. We also need to look at our learnings. So learnings, those errors and mistakes in terms of decision making that we've done in the past, that we don't treat as a failure but as a learning. And what we suggest is really to write it down. So Tinette mentioned earlier that it's important to write down our goals, and this is the first step. So we do have a worksheet here that's shown in the screen. This is just one of the worksheets that we give our clients in terms of going through the ACE process. So you can use this page, we call it an acknowledgement page, to write down all the stuff that you're acknowledging in your life. Appreciation, again, is very important. Having that gratitude, write it down as well. Because, self-acknowledgement and appreciation, it gives us that insight and the awareness to really move forward towards achieving the higher goals that we wanted to achieve. Next step would be the ACE process of the ACE process is to anticipate. So anticipating is acting in advance. So it's looking forward to the future and doing something before someone else does it. And to anticipate, we need to ask ourselves a good number of questions for us to be able to realize how can we do something better for the future. So we have to ask, the three W's. So the what is the breakthrough that I wanted to achieve out of this crisis? What is the opportunity for me in this breakdown to be able to achieve those breakthroughs? So, for example, if you look at yourselves, you look at your strengths and limitations, and maybe opportunities for improvement. Uh, have you looked at your personal development? What are the gaps in terms of my personal development? Am I really prepared to deal with this VUCA world that we are all in right now? So, for those of you who are familiar with VUCA, VUCA, the volatile, the uncertainty, the complex, and the ambiguous world that we are in right now. Am I prepared for that? So ask yourself that. Ask yourself, where do I want to be? So before you wanted to look at where you want to be, you have to know as well, where am I right now at this stage in my life? So you wanted to gain that clarity on what you want and where you are to be able to know where you want it to be. It's just like process improvement, right? So, when we're doing that process improvement methodology, before we can improve something, we must first identify or establish a baseline of how things are at the present. And from there, we can actually look at how we can improve ourselves. And the last question I wanted you to ask in terms of this process is the why question. So going back to your purpose, if you are a business owner, if you're in your career, what is my purpose? Why am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing right now in my business? Why do I need to transform myself? And there's a follow-up question to that. What will happen if I don't transform myself? So ask again, why do you want to achieve this particular breakthrough? The next step on the ACE process is the ACT. So this is where you actually set your goals. And again, we do have worksheets to help you out in terms of writing it down. These are free. Let us know if you want a copy of this, and we will, supply this, email them to you. Writing a goal is it's important because the goal with a plan, it's going to be the roadmap to your future. So again, in the terms of this process, we have to ask ourselves, so how will I get there? What is my next best move? What will get me through this breakthrough? Write it down. Have a laser focused goal. In this worksheets, we have a couple of areas in our lives that you wanted to upgrade or to improve on. And, just like what Tinette mentioned, it is important for us to prioritize. There's another worksheet that it can help you prioritize your main goals. What are the 3 most important goals? What are the action steps I needed to take? And what are the key strengths that I have right now that will help me accomplish these goals? So, detailing your next action steps is a must because it keeps you stay on track, and having that specific strategies and tactics, it will help you stay focused on what needs to be done. And then the third part the fourth part in the process is actually the commit. So when we say commit, it's the unconditional commitment that you wanted to transform and break through. Again, this is also an accountability on the person's end. We believe that for you to be able to commit, you committed that you are committed to do it as a means to elevate and go to a higher, transform yourself to a better one. But you also need to have a support system. So having a support system is it could be a coach, or having a coach or a mentor. This could look different for different people. It could be as simple as having your spouse or a family member, your partner, or a trusted friend who knows your goals and who is also committed to help you achieve those goals. We have to remember that we don't achieve anything in this world on our own. We always have someone who supported us throughout our journey. We need to have an accountability partner. We call it an accountability partner, who will challenge our perspectives, provide us some alternatives if we're stuck, and it will help us guide us, when we are at crossroads and we need to make a decision, by sharing their own experiences, and if they have encountered that similar situation. We have to make sure, though, that this particular partner is someone who is trusted, and someone who has the same mindset, the growth mindset as you. You don't want to be stuck with someone who is actually has a fixed mindset. It will not help you, right? Okay, so the last step that we feel is important in this process is the evaluate process, evaluate steps. So this is checking in and reviewing your progress. So again, the important thing, if you're writing your goal, you have something tangible that you go back to. You don't tend to forget things. And it has been proven that people who write their goals down, they have a higher percentage of achieving that particular goal, or of success. So evaluating, going back to your written goals, and looking at it, and you know you need to set a timeline. If it's just the start of moving forward, you need to look at it weekly, move forward with looking at it every 2 weeks or even monthly. But it is critical to tracking your progress towards your goal. You've heard of the saying that what gets measured gets done, or what gets measured gets improved. So this is the evaluation piece. I'd like to point out too that we have to be very flexible in terms of readjusting our approach to reach our goals. So, for example, if you have evaluated your progress and you realize that you're getting further away from your goals rather than closer to them, you need to readjust your approach. This evaluation time gives you that moment to actually correct things. If you don't put this into practice, you might not notice that you're missing out, or you're actually not on track in terms of the goal that you're actually moving forward. So it is very important to really evaluate and reevaluate. So these are the steps that we wanted to share with you, and we hope that will help you realize that you need to break through, and help you break through whatever and achieve the goal that you have set for yourselves. Because we wanted to remind everyone that the only way to get unstuck is really to keep going forward. And how do you keep going forward? It's, again, looking at yourself, having that change or initiative first, and leading yourself, really. So we believe here in Consultation Global that the two critical factors in terms of leading yourself first is having that growth mindset and having a process. So this is the ACE process that we are recommending that you do and you practice for you to be able to start that transformation within yourselves. Again, sometimes people ask, where do I start? How do I start? That's the first. That's one of the questions that is very important to ask. How and where do I start? Again, start with ourselves. How? If you wanted to become a better person, create that self-awareness, and give you that added skill and competency that you never did have before, to be able to become more competent, invest in yourself. So there are a lot of different ways to do that. You can read books. Have you read? When was the last time you read a transformative book? Have you attended? Consider attending seminars. We have a lot of free webinars such as this, and one important thing to consider is information is only powerful if you apply it in real life. So aside from reading books and aside from reading, attending seminars, maybe perhaps consider taking a course, a course that will give you new information, help you develop a new competency or a new skill that will equip you. Again, looking at yourself, right now it's the 21st century. Do I have that 21st century competencies for me to be able to, lead myself first, and then, create that ripple effect into my personal life, in my business, and in my career? So start with that. Ask that question, do I have that competency I need to be the 21st century leader that is prepared to face this VUCA world that we are in right now. Okay, so I will stop here, and we will see if there are some questions that you may have in terms of this presentation. I'll see. I know Tinette has been collating some, looking at the questions. Tinette, do we have some questions right now?
Actually, I'm just trying to take a look at the questions, but I don't see any at the moment.
We can unmute
actually,
everyone now.
Yeah, but you can unmute everybody so that we can hear we can hear the questions. Ladies and gentlemen, please feel free to ask us anything. If you have any questions on the presentation, or if you are going through some, you're at a crossroads at the moment in your personal life or in your business life, we'll be happy to share what we know. So I see Donna in the room. Donna, would you like to start with a question?
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Hi, Donna.
This is Donna from Consultation as well. I'm in the Philippines. I'm so happy that we able to do this. It's very helpful. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Tinette.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to point out what Maria said, that the only way to move forward is to get unstuck is to keep on moving forward. I feel that it's very powerful, especially in current setting. I've had a lot of friends who are SMEs, and most of them are thinking of closing down their business, and it's really very like difficult. So my question is, how do they get unstuck? Like, how do you just stop going down the rabbit hole and begin climbing up? So I guess that's a question that's relevant for everyone here. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna, for your question. So I guess perhaps somebody in the group would like to share his or her answer. I mean, the floor is open to everybody, so feel free to just. Does anybody want to answer that? How do you get unstuck if you're going down the rabbit hole? Anybody?
Well, Tinette, I just want to, again, I can share, again, the information that we start with ourselves, right? So how do you get unstuck? Having that self-awareness is very important, because if you know your where you are at right now, if you know your current gaps, if you know your current limitations, aside from knowing your strength, that's where you start. You start from having that goal to actually develop and improve yourselves. Again, start with yourself.
So it's basically starting with a mindset. But I think what works for me, and Donna, I can only share my personal experience on this. I really, okay, I hear a lot of noise. Maria, is it okay to...
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
I'll just unmute.
Yeah, I guess unmute or mute. Yeah.
I'll mute.
Yeah. So just to answer Donna's question, I think one practical advice that I can share is what I'm currently doing right now, because it's very tempting to look at your social media feed, getting all the negativity around. And when you're reading negative posts or watching negative news or talking to negative people, this also creates that kind of energy, in you. So if you are surrounded by an ecosystem that's very negative, then of course it's very difficult to get unstuck as well. So I guess one of the most practical or tangible aspects of this getting unstuck is really just to create an environment of positivity in your own home. This is what I would say. Get rid of things that are not important to you. Get rid of old files that are no longer serving their purpose. Clean up your Facebook accounts, and then you feel like you're progressing, because the most important thing on a daily basis is progress. So if you've only just ticked off one or two important tasks for the day, that's already, getting unstuck somehow, and that affects the mindset. So I guess that's one of the things that I will be sharing with you guys, because again, in my own experience, I felt stuck in the first week of this lockdown, and I really couldn't get out of it. And Chaba knows that, Maria knows that, Donna knows that. I've been telling my closest associates this situation of mine, and I was able to get out of that situation because I literally had to unfollow negative people on social media. I refused to watch negative news and just focus on positive and progressive stuff. So that's, I guess, Donna, one of the things that I can share with you.
Thank you so much.
Maria?
It's very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
You're welcome.
No, that's
You're
a great answer, Dawn.
Mhm.
Tinette.
Yeah.
For myself, I'm not very much into social media as well, because that's what I find too. I find that there's a lot of negative stuffs, and you wanted to avoid those types of information. And you know, for me, if I see some people, some friends who are kind of stuck, I give them advice and what I can share with my own experience. But it's really all up to them. If I see that they're still in that same mindset, I just try not to follow them. And also, this is a time for us to really make sure that we're actually getting the time to develop ourselves. I just got licensed with the global disc behavior model, so it's one way to elevate myself too. I learned a lot, and I wanted to share that information to people. That's the start for me.
Okay. Right. Thank you. Any other question from the group?
Or comments?
Yeah, comments or
Maria,
question?
Hi,
this
Dave.
is Dave Kwan from Toronto.
Hi.
Hi guys. Maria is was my old colleagues many years ago, and I'm glad we can have this webinar this morning with this Zoom meeting. Congratulations on your presentations, and Tinette, it's great
Thank
that
you.
Thank
you
you,
also
Dave.
share
Thank you,
many
Dave.
of your success. I have a comment about mindset, and I think that we all know this is maybe is redundant that I say this, but I think that many situations we are in is perception is reality. And I've learned in my past that reality, the perception forms in two ways. One is a past experience plus a assumption, and that is the two components of perception, and that forms reality. And our reality define our destiny, if you will. So I think that from a mindset perspective, you cannot change perception if you change the past. There's nothing that you can do to change the past. The only thing you can change is assumption. Many of us are new immigrants to Canada, and I was sharing with Maria the other day about a comment that many people make in Canada when you arrive is you do not have Canadian experience. So we actually create workshops to deal with that. It's just changing assumption. So I think that getting rid of old files, as you say, Tinette, and other things that social media, get rid of the negativity is a great step forward. But then again, I think that there is a certain assumption in our lives that we need to change and find that assumption so that you can change that assumption and spin it around, and then the reality will start to change.
No, absolutely, Dave. I totally agree with you that assumptions are important. And just to add to what you're saying, and this is where being proactive counts a lot. Being proactive in the sense that you introduce yourself to new experiences, and sometimes we don't wait for these things to happen, we do it ourselves. So if our assumption is, for example, the world is flat, but then you experienced something new, you went somewhere and you all of a sudden you realize it's not flat and it's round, then all of a sudden everything changes, your mindset changes. So yes, I think what you're saying is very, very valuable and very true. And it goes to show that we're not at a dead end. that there is a way to change these assumptions or limiting beliefs, if I may call them. Sometimes we have limited our mindset into such a small space that we are not able to think beyond it. So and that's what sets us apart from animals, is because human beings have the capacity to become proactive and create the reality that they really want. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. I agree with both of you. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you, Dave, for
Thank you,
sharing
Dave,
your
for the
perspective
question.
on that. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to share their comments or ask questions? Maybe Reg. I see Reg in the room, or anybody. Yes, please feel free to. I think I heard somebody. Hi, Reg.
Hi, how are you?
I'm really good, thank you. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Yes, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much, Ms. Tinette, for this webinar. It's a real pleasure to be included in this in this breakthrough experience. Well, I'm having been in the sales industry for quite some time now. This is the first time everyone experienced this. Now, of course, it doesn't mean that if we're on lockdown mode that we will stop communicating with our clients. I think it's high time that we engage with them more, because we have to prove to them that we're still here. The lockdown doesn't mean that we're stopping. But my question is, how do you draw the line between engaging with your clients and being proactive, and the line that divides from being sensitive? Because I know we have to be extra sensitive right now, because we don't want to seem to be aggressive or opportunistic. Yes. So how do we draw the line between being engaging and being sensitive?
No, that's a brilliant question. Thank you so much, Reg. Maria, is it okay if I start and then I can?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Because Reg is in the sales. She's in sales, and definitely I'm very familiar with her line of business. And what I would say, Reg, is because really at this point in time, you're right that people are very sensitive when it comes to buying or shelling out money and all that. So I would recommend that to engage your consumers or your customers, educate them, provide education, provide training, help them, add value to your services. So instead of pushing them products or pushing them to buy something, engage with them in the sense that you're teaching them something. Like, okay, you're going to create a webinar or you're going to do a Facebook Live, teaching them how to cook, or teaching them how to care for their products, or teaching them how to eat healthy or something like that. So instead of making them making them feel pressured to buy, just keep giving them content without sounding like you're pushing them to buy anything. Because automatically the human brain is trained that when I know something, once my money is ready, once my heart is ready, I'm going to contact you anyway. So that would be my piece of advice. During the pandemic, I wouldn't recommend everybody to be pushing people to buy something, but rather just create value for what you're offering them. So that would be my most practical tip for you. Now, Maria, maybe you'd like to add something before you proceed to your... maybe we can go on for one last question after this before we close. So, Reg, I hope that that's something that... And of course, we can always talk offline for some tips. Yeah, I'll be happy to help. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think we're on the right track, because that's what we are concentrating on right now. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have other questions?
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else who'd like to?
Hi.
Hello.
Yes, hi. Let me get your names right, please. Yes, Bharat, that's me.
Hi,
Let me get your name.
Tinette. I'm Tinette.
Okay, Tinette and Maria. Okay.
That's right, yeah.
I don't have a question as such. I just wanted to add on to the points to the questions by Miss Donna, Dave, and Regina. What Tinette mentioned, have I got the name right?
That's right.
Yes,
Yeah.
Tinette.
Correct. Okay, what she mentioned is adding value to your customers, to the extended network. That was described yesterday by means of a scaffolding approach.
Mm-hmm.
In one of the other learning webinars which I had attended recently, so her concept was very much similar to the scaffolding approach. One of the other points which I would want to mention is avoiding something known as headline stress disorder in the present times, because at the we are overloaded with too much information, but directly or indirectly something which is connected to the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what causes stress, and we develop our perceptions and our beliefs are very much limited, that this is what it is and this is what is supposed to happen. It
Mm-hmm.
might continue for the next 4 weeks, for the next few months.
Yeah.
So
No,
limiting your
absolutely.
intake of, it's good to be aware of what is happening in your city, in your country, in your neighborhood, but not
Yeah.
from various sources,
That's
because
right.
one person, one news source might have
Right.
something to say, the other might
Yeah.
have something more to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Another
That's right.
suggestion which I would want to add on or give to Donna, Dave, and Regina is a combination of audio visual books
Mm-hmm.
plus
Yes.
meditation
Right.
and something known as having a gratitude journal. It could be even
Yep.
by writing on
Definitely.
worksheets, which was
Yeah.
suggested by Maria while explaining the ACE approach, or even a digital one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
right. Yeah.
Wow. That's.
That
Thank you very much,
your
Bharat.
tips,
Yeah.
Bharat, actually will really strengthen the mental muscles that we needed to strengthen.
Very good.
That's
Yeah.
right. All
Very
right.
good inputs. Thank you.
Thank you. So
Welcome.
we're actually 3 minutes to an hour now. If you have any questions, feel free to email them to us, and we will respond them to you, after the webinar. If something comes up, just feel free to email us. You have my email address because I sent you the Zoom link, and I just wanted to just suggest some good reads right now. We mentioned about the good reads. So this is a newly published book. It's called Uncommon Sense in Unusual Times. It's with it was authored by Chaba Tot. He just left the webinar. He was here with us earlier, but this is a very good, for in Canadian dollars. It's only less than $2 as an ebook. I believe that in Amazon right now, I check Amazon, they don't have a lot of paperback editions right now, very limited. So the quickest way to get this book is order it as an ebook, just less than $2. What a great investment! You will get over worth 500 pounds of resources by just reading this book. It's truly transformational. Another thing too, if you are really bent on developing and leveling up yourself, is attend a course. We just wanted to show you that here in Consultation we actually have a couple of courses that will help you develop the 21st century skills needed by the leaders right now. So regardless of stage you are in right now in your life, in your career, we do have a couple of programs to help you to develop that 21st century mindsets needed by the leaders. So in the next slide here, you will see the skills that were identified by 140 top CEOs in terms of what should we be teaching leaders right now to prepare for the future. So these are the top 8 or 9 skills, I believe, or in competencies, and our programs actually address all of them except the technology portion, because it's really technology. So consider attending this kind of program. The solutions and programs we have developed actually is being used right now in 27 countries of Fortune 500 companies, government agencies, and universities. So it's well tested and proven. And so come May, we will be offering an online workshop. It's called the Global Mindset Certificate. And we believe that everyone right now, regardless of where you are, regardless if you are here or you're an expat working out of the country, you need to have a global mindset, especially here in Canada. It's a very multicultural country, so we will explain to you what a global mindset is. It's not related to culture. We will be offering it as an online workshop, but after this lockdown and pandemic, it will be an in-person workshop. But the online workshop will be much cheaper than an in-person one. So if you want more information, just send us an email and we'll provide you more information as to the date and how much the workshop would cost. So this is the end of my slide, and we would like to thank you for joining us. We feel inspired that you were able to get something out of it. Thanks for sharing your perspectives, your input. And yes, so we wish you well. We wish you that you have a good weekend. Thanks for sharing an hour of your time on the weekend with us. And we hope to see you in our future webinars. We do have one upcoming webinar on Thursday. It's it's about leading a high-performing virtual team with a global mindset. So to give you more information on that one, send me an email. I'll provide you the link to the webinar on Thursday. It's 1 o'clock Mountain Standard Time here in Edmonton. All right. So again, thank you everyone, and have a good weekend. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.